What we're going to be doing in this video is going through how to set up the 20 group reports and what the 20 group reports are for and some of the uses you can get out of them even if you're not part of an official 20 group. So to get started, in order to use the 20 group, you have to have at least the level of departmental accounting turned on for the invoicing side of things. It really, if you only turn on the invoicing departmental accounting, it really doesn't affect a whole lot as far as your day-to-day processes. So most dealers could turn that on and not really know that it was even turned on, but it does need to be turned on at least on invoicing in order to be able to access the 20 group report. So I'm going to be going in a couple different dealers' databases to show you a few things that are different. So I will be jumping around in a couple different databases while we're doing this video. The first thing I want to do before I get to the report is I want to jump over here, and I'm actually going to do this in this database. I'm going to go over here to inventory management, and we're going to go down here to create categories. The main thing I want to talk about here is kind of explain what the 20 group is trying to do. We have the ability inside of Lizzy to create as many different categories for both parts and accessories as well as units that we want to. There really is no limitation whatsoever. You can break things down into any level that you want to do. But for the perspective of a 20 group, they need things in a very specific place because they can't have every single dealership creating their own categories and then trying to report against each other because nothing would ever match up. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these things match up. So in this particular dealer's database, you can see they have a bunch of different types of accessories that they have created. And this probably was caused by the system that they originally came from, but in any respect, it's a bunch of stuff all tagged as accessories. And the 20 group is not going to be able to look at all of this stuff because hardly any of the other dealers would have these same categories. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first jump back over to this other dealer, and we're going to go over here to reports, accounting general, and then we're going to go down here to the 20 group reports. Now you can flag this with the little star here, and that will put it on your default list. But I'm just going to go ahead and go into it. Now, this is the default report when it comes up. If you get an error saying that you don't have departmental accounting on when you try to access this, then you need to contact us so that we can turn that on for you. But in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to start here with new units. And we're not really paying attention to any of the data that's showing up down here at the bottom at first because we've got to configure what categories we have and how we want to map those to the 20 group. And that's done right here at the top of this report. It says configure unit vehicle type. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And then here we're going to start with motorcycles. Now in this particular dealership, you can see they have a lot of different motorcycles that they have all mapped into the motorcycle category. So for the perspective of the 20 group, they don't care whether it's a Z Street bike or a dirt bike or a motorcycle. They want all of those types reported as motorcycles. And then they want all the UTVs reported as UTVs and personal watercraft, so forth. So all we're doing here is telling the system that, look, I know that for motorcycles, I've got a lot of different things in here, but I want you to take all of my things and map them into the single category for motorcycles. So, and that's really all you're doing. And the pre-owned units and the new units they both have their own configure button, but they're both using the same list. So once you set them all up in one or the other of these, they'll automatically apply to the other. So you're not having to do both. Now, service doesn't have anything you need to map for it, so it's going to work right out of the box. But parts and accessories is going to be the next thing that we need to work with. And I'm going to jump over to this other dealership. And again, we're going to go over here to reports, accounting general, 20 group. And so from here, I'm going to change this. By default, it's going to look at last month's data. In this particular dealership, they have just gotten started. So we're just going to switch this over to 2015, because nothing's been set up much in here other than us playing around. But so here is their default parts and accessories. By default, when you open this, everything's going to be lumped into other unless it actually has a category on it. And that category has been mapped into the 20 group report. So we're going to be doing both of these processes. The first is to map our categories, our parts categories, with the categories that fit into the 20 group. So we're going to click this. These are the 20 group categories. These are the main categories that the 20 group looks for. We're going to go ahead and pick parts, and you can see that we've mapped that to parts. But if I pick this accessories, if you remember from a minute ago, they have a lot of accessory items. So I'm actually going to come in here, and to do this, you just pick it from the drop list and hit the plus sign, and you notice that it continues to add it to the list down here as I'm going. So since they've got so many, I don't really care which ones I'm picking. But what we're doing is we're saying, look, I know Lizzy's got 50 categories for accessories, but we're going to map all of those accessory categories to the single accessory category for the purposes of 20 group report. And that's really all we're doing here. You're just going to go through each one of these categories and map whatever your categories are to those specific categories so that the 20 group report works correctly. And then once we're done with that, we can just come down here and rerun by re-clicking this. We can click on parts and accessories, and the numbers will change, and it'll go through and map more stuff into those categories. So that's step one. We need to make sure that Lizzy is aware of what her categories are and what the 20 groups categories are and how they relate to each other. But with the parts information, we have another problem that we have to deal with. Hardly any, I won't say none, but hardly any of the manufacturers actually give us parts data to tell us what category a particular part goes to, which causes a huge problem when we're trying to map information for our 20 group. So on this 20 group report, and this is something big for dealers that aren't really in a 20 group, but they want to try to get all of their stuff categorized properly. We have an additional control here that if I open it, it will give me a list of all the parts that we sold for this month or whatever month we picked that we have not yet assigned a category to. And so I have a really quick and easy way to assign those categories, remove those parts from the list, and have them fit immediately into the proper category on the 20 group report, as well as every other report that's inside Lizzy related to categories. So to use this, I'm going to first tell it to uncheck all. I'm going to come down through here, and I'm going to pick the items, and I'm just going to pick a few to show you. I'm going to pick the items that I want to put in the parts category. So these are the items I'd like to move. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go down and pick parts. So we'll select the parts, and then you just pick this process all checked items. And what that will do is it'll go through and look at each one of these parts, assign them to the parts category, and remove them from the list, so that now if I come back over here and rerun my parts and accessories, they'll fit into the new list. So you not only have the ability to very easily and quickly link your specific categories to the 20 group so that everything shows up in the right section, but you also have the added benefit of being able to very quickly categorize items that were not previously categorized that you have sold, get them into the right category, rerun your report, and all your numbers filter into the correct place. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are expenses. The expense information that shows up in here with Lizzy, you have two levels of departmental accounting you can turn on. One is invoicing level, which only deals with sales, and the other is your full departmental accounting, where when you go write a check to the electric company, it comes up and says, how do you want to disperse this payment through all the departments, to where it goes in and tries to give you an accurate depiction of what your expenses are based on everything that you have done. A lot of the 20 groups are starting to kind of move away from trying to do departmental accounting in that depth, because it gets really difficult to decide how much electricity goes to sales and how much goes to service. So it really is an arbitrary number that's being pulled out of the sky most of the time for how these things need to be dispersed. So with that in mind, a lot of the different companies are starting to just leave all of the expenses in the expense category and not try to mix them into the individual departments. Lizzy can do both. But you just need to understand that if you are only using the invoicing side of the system from the departmental perspective, you're not going to get all of those disbursement questions, and therefore those expenses are going to show up in a lump department, not inside of each individual department. But other than that, that is really all there is to setting up the departmental accounting, or not the departmental accounting, but the 20 group, to start using some of that information to get to the 20 group or to better run your business using the information.